Alright, I hope you guys are enjoying your Thursday. It is kind of dreary. I decided to come live because I wanted to share my absolute favorite Couture product with you and get to try out this really neat and really I want to say heartwarming, but emotional piece for any of us who have ever lost anyone. And I know right now that is probably a worry and maybe it's not as appropriate, but I just received this and I really wanted to do something with it. So I decided I was going to do my favorite project. But yeah, this one is going to be, you're not going to see my face probably unless I'm trying to get something straight, just because this is a bit of a bigger project. I am going to be doing a banner. I don't know if you saw my post the other day of my I Love You to the Moon and Back banner, but I'm going to do something similar with this transfer, and this one is going to be a little bit more somber. It's going to be not use as many, really any colors at all. I've chosen the white, this light blue, and this black, just because I think it's meant to be, or at least to me, it seems a bit more simple and about the emotion rather than being very colorful with it. So yeah, why don't we just jump right in? And so the transfer I chose today is this one here, and I'm going to turn around in a minute so I can read it, because I think for those of us who have ever lost someone, it's a good reminder. So it says, "Those we love don't go away, they walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed, and very dear." And I just, when I saw this was coming out in the new catalog, I jumped on it. Well, I didn't jump on it, I forgot to put it in my cart actually, and then it sold out and I was really disappointed. So I just kept checking day after day the list to see when it would be back in stock. And so when it got back in stock, I jumped on it before it sold out again. And I think it's been restocked since. But yeah, so I want to do this one. I'm gonna do it on this fabric, and then so you might notice the edges look a little bit rough. That's fine, because I'm going to fold and iron the edges in so that it'll create, and then sew them, and so it'll create a clean transfer. And I'm just gonna play around with, I want to make sure that I can get all the elements in that I want. Hold on. Yeah. Without getting close to the edge, or too close to the edge. And I am going to use this. This is the Club Couture transfer. I'm not going to use this French market bit. I'm going to use the border instead, and show you how you can mix and match transfers. So I think right there will be plenty of space, except I might move it down just a tad. There. Okay. So first off, I am going to peel this off the back. And this one we're not going to fuzz because we're transferring it onto paper, or onto fabric, so we don't want to fuzz it. So I just want to make sure that that is good, and then I'm going to press it down. Make sure again that all those edges are sealed so I don't have bleed, because I love ink because it gives you more time than chalk to work, but it also is very much permanent. Once it's down, you're not going to get it away. So if you have any bleed, it is not going to be, you're not going to be able to erase your mistakes. So you just want to make sure, absolutely sure, that the transfer is pressed down absolutely. And so I also have this cardboard underneath it because this fabric is really thin, and beyond that it is recommended that you do have cardboard or whatever inking mats underneath your project when you're in your project if you're working on a pillowcase or something like that, just because it will bleed through while it's setting, or if you use too much, and you don't want that to bleed through to the other side of your project. Here it really probably doesn't matter because it's just one side and no one's going to see the back. But I still like having that just so it doesn't bleed onto my furniture. Alright, so I was thinking maybe for the words, do that in white, and then do the crows or the birds in black, and then use this blue to do the the frame. So let's open this up. Now I'm always super cautious when using ink. And the ink is very much the same way in that you don't need to use very much of it to do your projects, which is amazing because, again, 3-ounce jars last forever. The other recommendation is that you put it on the side. You don't just start wiping it directly onto whatever you're transferring, because it will encourage that bleed through that I was talking about earlier. So we're just gonna wipe this. And the thing about ink is you have more time, because after you ink something, it'll set either until you use a blow dryer to blow dry it, so it's tacky, or just waiting and then waiting 24 hours to let it set, because that'll make sure that the ink is soaked into the fabric. And then at the end of the whole process, you heat set it by either using one of the heat presses, and I think it's 45 seconds on both sides, or but definitely double check that before, because it's either 30 or 45 seconds. To heat press using one of those heat presses, or if you've just got an old style iron, then all you gotta do is, well, let it set the 24 hours, and then do 4 minutes on each side so that your project will be heat set, and then you'll be able to wash it and it's not going to come off. And again, you just want to be very careful around your edges, because if you get this on the fabric, that's not going to come up. You can't erase that mistake. And now I'm just going to go over, because you just want a thin layer of the ink on your transfer. And so we're just gonna keep. Alright, I think that's as much as I can get. And then a very important step that half the time I forget to do and then end up regretting because my hand transfers ink to the project is check to see if you have any ink on your hands. If you do, try and get that off, just because, again, that'll transfer to your design. So what I am going to do is I'm going to start pulling up one edge, and then I'm going to start pulling up the edge. This would be a lot easier if it was, I had wrapped it around, but you just want to keep pulling. Okay, and then that's just gonna go in the water until I can clean it. So look at that. That is perfect. Like, that transferred perfectly, and you probably can't see because of the light situation. Sorry. We'll try turning this around so that you can see a bit better. But like, that turned out perfect. And this is why I love ink. As careful as you have to be, and as cautious about making sure everything is pressed down, the ink is a lot less. It doesn't have to be a well, okay, let me say, it does have to be a specific consistency, but the consistency typically is almost always what it should be. There's no having to fuss around with thinning or thickening it, which that, and just, I love creating t-shirts and these banners. Like, I get to sew and pillowcases, and I just love getting to do things like this. So, and I love how easy Couture is, and that it does make it, and the best part about this is it's not vinyl, it's ink, it's soaking into the fabric, and then you're heat setting it so that it's not going to come off. For instance, where's that banner? Hold on. Oops, and I popped off my banner here. Hold on. There we go. Alright, so this banner here, if you can tell, it's not cracking, it's not scratching. I can't scratch that off. I can't bend it and break it off. It's going to be there forever. Or at least until the fabric starts going. So yeah, so that is another reason to love Couture ink. And if you want this transfer, it's in my store, and you can get that at any time. Do keep an eye on it, because it does go in and out of stock fairly quickly, because I don't know about you, but the sentiment, it would definitely mean a lot to me to have. It's going to mean a lot to me for hanging in my apartment. Okay, and then we're just gonna put this over top, but this time we're not pressing the whole transfer down. We're just gonna press the edges because this ink is still fairly wet, and so we don't want to pull it up. So I'm just gonna press down around the edges, and then that way I don't have to worry about pulling up the ink I just laid down. I've seen a lot of different designers use the cardinal or like one of our other bird transfers to make red cardinals, because I've heard that that is something that can also represent the ones we miss. So again, it's just a matter of playing around and finding what you want. Okay. And again, I've done several projects with these pieces, and I've barely made a dent in them. So these will definitely last you a long while, unless you're making like 50 million things a day, which if you can do that, kudos to you. I can usually only manage 3 or 4, depending on if it's a work day or not. Alright. So there we go. And again, into the water. I like how these stand out against the white. I think it's a nice little contrast. I'll show you it at the end once I get the last of the transfers down, which is this French market one. This one is going to be unique because obviously I just want the border. I don't want the whole thing. Which actually, do I have one of my mini squeegees nearby? No, I don't. So I'm going to be extremely careful with this one. Okay. So, with this, the transfers, because it's silkscreen, you can see through the bits that you're going to be putting ink on. So it's easy enough to line things up how you want it. I want to line that up a bit more with the words rather than the birds. Okay, I do have a ruler. Sorry, I just want to get this right. So it's about 5 centimeters from this edge to the W there. Oops. And it's a little, so I need to move it over more to the other side. And this is why you don't press down until you're absolutely sure that's where you want your transfer to be. So, again, let's see. So it's about 5. It's about 4.5, but it's enough of a, it's close enough. Although, is that straight? I'm gonna drive myself nuts, guys. Okay, so the we is about to there. Needs to go over a little bit more. Oh my goodness. I will get this right. Just with ink, you got to be extra careful about your placement because otherwise you're stuck with it. There we go. I'm happy enough with that. And again, just gonna press around the edges. I'm not gonna press anywhere else because I don't wanna tear up what I've already done. And technically you could probably use a hairdryer between layers to make sure that it's dry before doing this, but I don't have a hairdryer because usually I just let my hair dry. So I haven't invested in one. So I'm just kind of being very careful about putting it down. And this one I'm gonna have to be very careful because the ink is right on the edge there. All right, and let's go. before I get any more, I usually like to try and go over areas that seem to have a lot of ink and just kind of push that along. And then go in and grab more. It's really raining down there and really windy. It makes me glad I'm not outside. Okay. So I just want to check and make sure I've got ink through every part of the silk screen. And that it then I'm going to pull from this edge. And I like that the blue is kind of blending more into the fabric. I'll show you what I mean afterwards, but to me, I don't want the frame to be kind of the focus. I just want it to kind of be there. But I did like the thought of it. All right. And maybe once I heat set it, I'll decide that I want to go over it with a color that's going to stand out a little bit more. If that's the case, then that's perfectly fine. All right. Need more ink. Okay. Just get the excess off. Just make sure I don't have ink on my hands. Try and find a spot to get some grit on it. And there we go. So I think I'm done with this for the moment. And I just got ink on myself again. So now what I'll do is I'll show you guys. And hopefully you'll be able to see. So the border is not as obvious in this kind of shadowy light, but it is there. But I love the look of it. I like that the border's not really evident unless you look closely, or it's just kind of like a hint of it, because it doesn't detract from the saying. And I think with that fancy of one, that's how you need it, just so that it doesn't take away from the from it. But that being said, I may go over it and maybe mix a bit of black in with that with some of that blue, just to darken it up. But I'm gonna wait and see what it's like heat set before doing that. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this sit for 24 hours. And then once it has sat for at least 24 hours, you can leave it longer if you want, or if you don't have time right away. And then I am going to put parchment paper over the top of this design, take it off the cardboard, iron it for 4 minutes on one side, and then flip it over, put the parchment paper on the other side, and iron it for 4 minutes, and it'll be heat set. And then I'll cut off this remainder, and I will use this fabric for something. I do have this transfer called Oh Canada, and maybe I can make a couple of Canadian flags out of that. That's an idea. But yeah, so I really like how that turned out. And again, I can't get it all in frame, but I think it turned out beautifully. But yeah, so that is Couture ink. I love it. It's so simple, so easy, and you can make, like, kids can do this stuff. You might want to be more cautious with them with the ink, because obviously it's permanent, and you don't want them getting it on their nice clothes, but that's easy enough to do. So I'm gonna go clean up my transfers, put this in a spot where it'll be safe, and then I will come back tomorrow and show you how to iron it. All right, have a good night. Bye.